let your light shine so brightly that others may see your commendable works. So as parents, we are beacons, we are light givers, we are light bringers, we are light bearers. Our families should shine forth the light of God so that the world we see our commendable works. Our children are cautious, they have manners, they are respectful, they are kind, they are givers. And when the world sees this commendable work we have put into raising them, they will give glory to God the Father. How are you raising your children today? Will people see your children and say, God be praised for these amazing children this family is raising? The next one will be modeling values, principles, and virtues. For that we have Titus 2 verse 7. And you yourself must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. And you yourself must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. If you understand that you have been commanded to live a certain way, you will not live small. You will not live miserly. You will not live complaining. You will begin to go after with deep, should I say resolve? Yeah. Consciousness, understanding of who you are and the mandate that you have been given. And you would live life from that place of knowledge. And then you will indeed be wise and wield a lot of power because you are applying the knowledge of yourself that you have. And by extension, you'll be showing the little ones God has put in your care that they are God's. No wonder Justice Mabel said, she said, there's a way you pray knowing that you are God. Right? You are a God with a small g. You don't approach the throne of grace crying. Jesus did not do that. He knew who he was. He knew that he was God. He knew he was the Son of God. He knew the authority he carried, the power he was wielding. And he would say, thank you because you always hear me. Imagine the audacity. Justice Mabel said, you go into the throne of grace and you talk with the words of a deity. There are prayers that move God. It's not the length. It's not the shout. It's not the shout. Nah, don't shout. You're going from a place of knowledge. See, God, you said this and this and that. I believe that this and that will happen. Thank you. Imagine your child coming to say, Daddy, last week you mentioned this and this and that. Because you have done so and so for maybe for, I'm grateful for this and this. See, shame go first catch you because, you will not want to fall your hand now. You must maintain that identity that he has of you, that you're always showing up. You will not want to go less than that standard. Are meant to model values, principles, and virtues to the world. It's a pity now that has become the other way around. It is the world that is now leading us as believers. It's the world that is now showing us how to raise children, because it beats my imagination, right? It makes me really, really, really shiver or quiver when a 4-year-old, for instance, is drinking at a party. Is drinking alcohol at a party, and adults are filming and people are cheering. How did we get here? How did we get here? What are we modeling? What are we showing? Are we now the ones that the world is teaching? Do not be conformed to the standards of this world. Rather be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's why you must watch podcast shows like this regularly. That's why you must listen and learn. You must observe and do, so that you will be renewing your mind. You will not be conforming to the standards of this world. The next one is to rule, to dominate, and fill the earth. A lot of us have even twisted that fill the earth to be, let us just come and born 200 children and fill the earth. Can you fill the earth with beautiful things? Look at Dubai. Look at all the world wonders they're building. Have you seen the airport in Doha? Have you seen how marvelous that looks? Fill the earth. It's not with plenty children. Depends on your interpretation of it, though. Maybe with beautiful things. Maybe with mind-blowing ideas. It's quite History states when the problems we have been created to profess solutions to are the things we cry over. Roads are bad, roads are bad. Who will be the engineers that will build better roads? There's no light, there's no light. Who will figure out how we can have better electricity in the country? This is bad, this is bad. If everything was okay, what will be your value? What will be your use in this ecosystem? Go and watch the men who built America. Nobody said the government that built America. The men who did. They saw a problem, they thought about a solution, they created the solution, and gradually that's how they built America. But here we are complaining. We have so made it a habit that even our children have learned it from us. How did we get here? If there's no problem to solve, what will you be doing with all the brilliance of your mind? If you always complain about the problem, if God wishes for all the problems to go away now, what will be your relevance to the society? What will be your use? Then God blessed them. Genesis 1:28. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. I remember the first time I heard Ubon King, God rest his soul, talked about dominating the land, the air, and the sea. I love how he preached about wealth using biblical principles. And he said, if you are not dominating the air by having businesses that need the air, then you are not working in that mandate yet. How about the sea? Maritime businesses, shipping in goods from the sea or moving them out of the country from the sea. What about the earth, the land? These days, you now have the internet too, right? Of course, that should also be air and all of that, space and internet and all. What are you doing to dominate, to fill the earth, to rule it? How are you teaching your children to position in the space to be able to rule the earth, to fill it, and to dominate it? The next one is training through apprenticeship systems. These older women must train the younger women to love their husbands and their children. Titus 2 verse 4, the New Living Translation. Apprenticeship systems. Do you know that by raising your children right, they would have apprenticed or learned from you how to raise theirs right? Do you know that by showing them every single day, I don't know if you've heard about the law of the 10,000 hour rule, or should I say law? After having learned something for 10,000 hours, you gain mastery in it. Your children will spend more than 10,000 hours with you before you launch them when they become adults, right? Imagine learning excellence in parenting. Imagine learning legacy consciousness from you for maybe 20 or 30,000 hours, depending on how many years they're going to be with you. They learn to honor well. They learn to be respectful. They learn the virtues of kindness, of grace, of compassion. They learn how to nurture their children intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. They learn how to love upon God, to serve Him. A lot of us, the moment God blesses us with the car we are looking for, we'll stop going to church. God gives you everything you are looking for right now. Would you still love Him? Will you teach that unconditional love to your children? Just love Him because He is, not because of what He can give to you. No wonder a lot of believers just stop going to church or believing in God when they go to more developed societies where their prayer points have already been provided. Do you love God for God or because of what you stand to get from Him? You talk about people are always trying to use me. Are you using God? Because the moment He doesn't give you anything anymore, would you still love Him? Would you still serve Him? Are you teaching that to your children too? Or is it just when you need something you pray as a family? Do you just go up to the throne of grace and say, God, I just want to say thank you. Today I'm singing just to say thank you. Today I'm singing just to say I love you. Apprenticeship. What is your love legacy? A lot of families have killed the self-esteem of their daughters, of their sons too. Some women will open their mouths and say, he can cheat now. It's me he comes to meet at home. I am the one he comes to. like, okay, after he has gone around, should be me, he will still come back to. I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying don't do that to your daughter. Be careful what you are accepting, because you are giving permission to your daughter to accept the same thing. Be careful what you permit, because you are giving your son the courage to permit it too. Be careful what you're doing, because your child is learning, and we learn by observation and imitation more than from, go and do this. We are seeing how you are doing it. We are learning like that. When there were no classrooms, how were our forefathers learning? From looking at and doing. Look at and replicate. Observe and imitate. So if your children are learning from you in this apprenticeship system, how to even deal with your domestic staff. Some of you treat them like absolute trash. You go out and you see, from the way the people are dressed, from the way they are even seated, from the way they are talked to, you're able to differentiate or separate the nannies or housekeepers or maids or from the children or the entire family. And then your children have learned it too. You talk down, you berate, you tear them down just to feel like you're in control. Stop it, because you are giving that to your children too. The next part of our conversation will be on the kingdom concept of parenting. How does God want us to raise our children? The kingdom concept of parenting. Number one is influence, or should I say influence. John 14 verse 9, the Passion Translation. Jesus replied, Philip, I've been with you all this time, and you still do not know who I am? How could you ask me to show you the Father? For anyone who has looked at me has seen the Father. People will see your children outside and say, I know this pikin na Mr. Jethro pikin. Is it for good? I know that child. My Mama Amaka Bona. Because Mama Amaka can shout for Africa. She'll just be shouting. Any small thing, say na so I be. Mama Amaka will say na so I be. And then your children have started being that way too. For anyone who has looked at me has seen the Father. Jesus Christ embodied that positive influence. If you have seen him, you have seen the Father, because he did what the Father did. And he said, greater works shall we do, right? How are you influencing the behavior, the character, the mind of your child? Just from living your life, just from doing what you ought to do, when you ought to do it, and how you have said you would do it, or how it ought to be done, you are impacting and influencing and building a trajectory for an excellently beautiful life for your children. Remember how we say, live today with tomorrow in mind, live as a legacy conscious parent. Your influence. Remember that anybody could have that much influence on your child, right? If it's their friends that are influencing them, oh my God. That you're a mom doesn't mean you're a parent. That you're a father doesn't mean you're a parent. Or you're a parenting. If it's movies that are influencing or guiding your child's heart, then the movies have become the parents of your children. It means that the people who are in that circle of influence that are teaching your children that are around them must have certain values. Their values must align with yours. No. You don't just employ helps in the house because you need assistance with work. You hire character and train skill. You hire slowly but fire quickly, right? Because you are protecting what you are building. Have you gotten to the point where, see, if I die, I die in this work. If I perish, I perish. Because you are guiding that seed. You are nurturing. Are you present enough to observe, okay, since so and so came into the home, my child has been behaving in so and so way. The influence is bad. Yeah, this person must go. This child started attending this or so school. The child hasn't been. There's a time my daughter was crying a certain way. What's going on, girl? Lele, what's all this? So I went to the teacher and said, girl, what up? Well, I don't get it. What's going on here? Why is my daughter crying like this? This is not what I brought to you. I actually knew there's a child that just joined the class. The child cries like that, so she imitates. I said, please, can they be separated? Please separate them. Another time, she'll come and hit herself on the floor a certain way. I went back and said, what's all this one? And there's a certain child that does this. Okay, please. I love the child. I understand child is everything. But please, can they, because imitation, observation and imitation, she would think it's right and she would want to come and start doing it. I don't want it. You must be present, you must be active, you must be listening, you must be conscious enough to see. Okay, since Tuesday last week, since this certain time, this thing has been going on like this, how can I begin to curtail it? Some of us wait till it's now becoming too much. We go the repair route instead of the preventative one. Instead of preventing things from happening, something that has happened, let us shut down the school. Let us tear this down. How do we begin to prevent these things from happening in the first place? How? Prevention is what? Better than cure, right? The next one will be equip. David said, oh, dear David. 1 Chronicles 22 verse 5 NLT. David said, my son is still young and inexperienced. And since the temple to be built for the Lord must be a magnificent structure, famous and glorious throughout the world, I will begin making preparations for it now. So David collected vast amounts of building materials before his death. To equip his son. He was not fit to build the church, but he wasn't going to allow his son build something that is subpar. He was not going to allow his son to be something that does not glorify God. Remember, it's the same one that said, I will not give God what costs me nothing. He knew God. He bravered him enough to equip his son to build a magnificent temple that will be famous and glorious throughout the world. What are you building? What are you preparing for your children? What has God laid in your heart? That you know you cannot fulfill, but you are equipping your children, preparing them to be able to do for God. Are you just living today? At the end of the day, let me take care of myself. Well, I've trained them, I've given them an education. Yes, there was a time when having a degree would have meant that you have a job waiting for you, maybe after NYSC, correct? There was a time that having a master's degree could get you something better than what a normal degree holder could get. But it broke my heart. It rent it into a million pieces one day when I heard that some drivers that were driving some trucks for a certain company in Nigeria were PhD holders. How did we get here? A lot of us parents, we live selfishly. We live with just today in mind. Let me just take care of myself and be going. What are you building? What are you gathering before your death to equip your children to live a certain life? You see, when you put things in place, there are certain prayer points your children will not have any business praying. We always talk about Solomon said, give me wisdom. Why did he ask for wisdom? If he was broke, will he be asking for wisdom? Wise poor man. Why? He was asking for wisdom so that he'll be able to rule over those God has given him, to manage the resources he had. Why? His father had done a lot rather. His father did a lot for him. So your children's prayer point will be dependent on the work you do today or do not do. Begin get up and begin to live and function in the mandate you have been called upon. The prayer point you pray today, or your children will pray tomorrow rather, is dependent on the lives that you build for them tomorrow. I want to live my life so fully that my children will be bothered about building solutions for the world. I think about them as glass shatterers, as as kingdom warriors, as destiny builders, solution providers. So when I charge them, I remind them. So when they ask me, why do we have to learn this? Why do we have to live this way? Why do we have to do that? I remind them that you are in this world to rule it, to dominate it, to fill it. You were called to prosper in it. As an alien to this world, there are certain things, certain principles, certain tenets you have to live a certain way in here. You will not conform to the standards here. You will transform your mind, you will renew it and live as the God that you were ordained to be. We know by ourselves and by extension equip, empower our children for the life they've been called to live. We will not insult them. We will not tear them down. We will work on our emotions. We will manage our anger and stress so that we will not rubbish them, tear them down, and leave them half-baked and not ready to face the society. So they can get up and begin to work on yourself. Yes, you were battered, abused, broken, rejected, frustrated. You've cried enough. It's been 25, 30, 40 years. Will you forever live in that past, in that memory, and be held bound to what has happened before? Or will you begin now to change the trajectory of your lineage to make things better for the children that are here now and those that are coming and those that will come after them? What will you be remembered for? My father abused me when I was a child. My mother did this. I'm sorry. Eric Thomas said, yes, if you sorry that you went through what you did, right? But if after a week I meet you there, see, all right, shame on you. Because you owe you. And now you owe it. Let me tell you now, you owe it to your children and their children's children too. Let's go on. The next one will be discipline. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind, and they will make your heart glad. Proverbs 29:17. Again, the New Living Translation. We want to be friends with our children. We want to be people. We want to be kids pleasers. Yes, mommy, can I take donuts? Yes, my dear. Mommy, can I? Mommy, yes, 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 yes. Even at their detriment. Yes, yes. Even when you are killing them now and marring their futures. Yes, yes, yes. You're not their friend. Yeah, a time will come when you morph into friendship when they are now old and then you are now leading and mentoring. Right now, baby girl, hey dude, you're not their friend. You should know the stage you are in your parenting journey and be able to walk in the office and deploy the unction for that office to nurture your children emotionally, spiritually, and of course, intellectually. You must discipline them right. You must learn to say no and mean it for their own good because you know them, you are introducing them to themselves. I told my daughters, yes, I know that there are a lot of songs you cannot listen to, right? Sing along or dance to right now. When the time comes and I give you back the keys of your life, you're not driving, correct? You can now decide on this sort of songs. But because you know that you can trust me, I'm saying no to a lot of songs right now. Will you hate me for it? I don't care. When the time comes when we can reason at that intellectual capacity or at that level of pedestal, I'll explain it to you and see if you still hate me. Remember a story of a child who went home one day and said thank you to their parents for never allowing them go for sleepovers because they had like a get together and their friends told them a lot of gory stories about the experiences they had during sleepovers. They appreciated their parents. In real time, they were angry. All our friends are going for sleepovers. Why are we not going? But much later in the future, the children came and thanked them for saying no and for standing firm in it. They will come with puppy eyes. They will say stories that will melt you. Right? You are the bestest mommy in the ever wide world. Oh, daddy, you're the best. Trust those people. Those tiny little humans. Of course, they have. I think they came with the art of seduction. They read the book and mastered it before they came into our lives. Puppy eyes, mommy, please, pity, please. And I will sing no. I think I've mastered a lot of different ways to say no. Say no a minute. Be okay with telling them no. If it's for their good, you don't be a witch. Also say yes so that they'll understand that you are not actually trying to be mean, all right? Let's move forward. The next one is provision. Proverbs 13, verse 22, the New King James Version. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Right? The other part says, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. A good man, our focus will be on this part. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. The inheritance can be your character. What says it must be money or wealth or land, right? Or properties. Yes, that's a plus too, because not be character Solomon to build temple na she, not be material, building materials you use. Of course, build that foundation for your children so that the work they are coming to do will be to build the superstructure. When their children now come, their children will no longer be building foundations or superstructures. They will now be beautifying, edifying, modifying whatever it is that was laid down. If you've struggled through this life and your children still come back to struggle the same struggle, guy, think calm now. Let's not do that. So when you are building, I know of, or I've heard of a certain preacher in Nigeria who pays fees for his grandchildren. His children do not have to do that. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Stop complaining. There's no this in Nigeria. There's no that in Nigeria. Come on. You were blessed with too much. You were endowed with too much. Just sit down and complain. Go and learn a bouquet of skills. If you need to stack skills to get by, if you need to reinvent yourself to get by, if you need to relocate to get by, go and build yourself and come and build the country. Go and build yourself and build a formidable family so that tomorrow you people can build the country. We have permitted ourselves to live in learned helplessness. Hey, that's what the country be now. There's nothing we can do about it. This is me helping my country too. By lending my voice to the Excellence in Parenting movement, you can help the country by sharing this video too. You can help the country by contributing to making the society better. You can help the country by doing the right thing. You can help the country by standing firm in your faith and come on, let's not even go to the church and how a lot of people, ministers even defile their flock. Right? Let's not go that far, please. It will be a sorry case. Come and start saying in public. Let's not talk about how parents are even the ones that are now defiling the children that they should be taken care of. You're crying about the large society. If you hear about the things that happen in the body of Christ, you will cringe. At the end of the day, it all begins from our families. It all begins from that child you're raising. It all begins first from you. That you are here now does not mean that you will not begin to take steps backwards, to retrace your steps, to unlearn and learn and keep relearning, to keep reinventing yourself, to keep getting better. If not for anything, if not for you anymore, but for your children and their children's children. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. What inheritance are you building right now that you leave to your grandchildren? Imagine if you took care of your children and your grandchildren and they followed the same way. Your lineage will be set up for life. It's not money for rent that your children will be praying for. Their grandchildren will be thinking about. They'll be thinking about solutions for the world, right? Like I said earlier, the prayer points your children will pray or not will depend on the work you do today as a parent. The next one is commission. If you do not know your child or what they are supposed to do, how will you commission them? How will you send them forth? To buttress this, we have 1 Chronicles 22, verse 16, the New Living Translation. You have expert goldsmiths and silversmiths and workers of bronze and iron. Now begin the work, and may the Lord be with you. Now begin the work, and may the Lord be with you. This was David to Solomon. You have everything you need. You have the resources in building materials. You have the resources in human resources, right? The goldsmith, the silversmith, and the bronze workers. Now begin. He's commissioning his son to begin his work because he knows that he's his son that will build the temple. He has provided the resources. Now he's commissioning him to go ahead, and he has added a prayer: the Lord be with you. Can we now see? Is it safe to say that whatever blessings Solomon enjoyed in his lifetime was as a result of the relationship David had with God, because the Bible recorded David as a man after God's own heart. Are you a man after God's heart? Let's not get in there. And then John 2 verse 5, the NLT, New Living Translation, still says, but his mother told the servant to do whatever he tells you. You know, the first miracle Jesus Christ worked, the wedding in Canaan, where the bridegroom, where the steward came and said the wedding, they were out of wine, and Jesus Christ was his disciples were there, and she went and told Jesus that there was no wine, and Jesus said, woman, go and tell your mother, woman, don't you know my hours that you come? 33 of your 32 teeth will be on the floor. Woman, don't you know my hours that you come? And she went on to the disciples and said, do as he tells you. That was the first. That was how his ministry began, right? Do you know your child enough? Do you understand the seasons and times of your children's life where you will say, now begin your work, or go and tell their servants, do what he tells you? How will you commission the person you do not know? How will you commission a talent you've not watched get nurtured? Are you sure they are ready for the limelight, for the fame, for everything, for the demons that comes with the spotlight? Are you sure they are ready to sit in the capacity of who they've been called to be and rule? Do you even know? Do you know your child? Some people do not even know their children. If not, you will greet them with respect. If not, you will treat them with dignity. You will not say you are mad to a child that's been called to be king, to rule, to reign, to dominate. You are very stupid. You don't have sense. You have mental, oh my word. The same mouth you should have been using to bless, you are using to curse and tear down your child. Please, begins. Let's begin to do better so that we can be changing the narrative around parenting. Final aspect of today's conversation is how to parent the kingdom way. Number one, by learning. We can't say this enough. You cannot give what you do not have. You won't know a lot of these things you have heard today, or some of these things, or one or two of these things you've heard today, if you were not committed to learning, right? Number one is learning. Proverbs 24 verse 3-4, NIV. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Knowledge, like Dr. Monroe said, knowledge is information. What do you know? Understanding is comprehension. Now that you know, do you understand it? Have you comprehended it? Because it's not just enough to hear or know. You must understand it. After having understood it, will you now keep it? Of course not. You apply what you have learned, what you comprehended, and then that becomes wisdom. And by applying that wisdom, like Panthera said, you become powerful. You become powerful. So you have to learn. You have to keep learning. A lot of you are growing in your jobs because you are always taking tests, always learning. You're always traveling. There's always something to learn to get promoted. Before you become a medical doctor, you do a lot of years. But before you got married, probably you did a week or two, maybe 3 months of marriage class. And since then, 20 years ago, 15, 10, 9, 3, 4, you've not read a book on marriage. You've not learned a thing about parenting. How can you do better? How can you be better if you're not committed to learning? You're blaming your parents for what they did not do or what they did that took you here. Yet you are not doing anything differently than what they have done. See, programming is very, very strong, you know. You'll be doing something unconsciously. You find yourself doing the things that you have cursed or cried about or spoken negatively about, or you have condemned, because you've not unprogrammed that thing. Habits do not really die, they just get suppressed. You make them obsolete by learning new ones, by continuing to show up and do new ones. What new things are you learning to be a better person, to be a better parent to your children, to be a better spouse to your husband and your wife? The next one is be imitators of God. Ephesians 5 verse 1. The Passion Translation. Be imitators of God in everything you do, for then you will represent your Father as his beloved sons and daughters. If anybody sees you now, by your fruits, will they know that you are a child of God? The way you dress, the way you walk or work, the way you talk, the way you treat people, your understanding of who you are. Like I said before, God is the king of flex. He will just show off. Have you seen my son Job? It's just like that, right? And then you will shrink. I don't like wearing white because people will notice me. I don't want to be a public speaker. A lot of people will know me. Come on. Why are you shrinking? Why are you dimming your light? Why are you selling yourself short? What programming is making you have this mindset? Is it glorifying your Father? Is your light shining brightly enough for men to see so that they will give glory to God, your Father? Or is your society now conforming you to their standards and making you an example of what impacts they can negatively make on people? Learning, the day you stop learning is the day you die. Your mind, you can be alive and your imagination, your mind is dead. You can be alive and be living with obsolete ideas, running on obsolete programs. Learning. You must imitate him in everything. He has taught us about himself, his character, the way he behaves. We must learn to adopt the mind of God and learn to be imitators of him. Honor people. He said to adore one another in honor, right? Treat people as special and as important. Walk in dominion, rule, reign, fill the earth. This is what God will do. Imitate him, so that in imitating them, your children will observe you too and begin to imitate God. You see, you will now be establishing God's kingdom here on earth like you have been sent here to do. The next one is be intentional and deliberate. You cannot just wake up and do things haphazardly and expect for things to be better. You must have goals. You must have parenting goals. You must have plans. You must have activities that help you do what you have set out to do. You must be intentional and deliberate. You cannot be haphazard. You cannot leave a lot of things to chance. Who do you want to work with you as you're looking after or taking care of your children? Who will be your babysitter? Who will be your nannies? What schools they attend? What trips will you make to impress upon their mind a picture, a clear picture of the future you want them to see or what you want in their current reality? And you must commit yourself so wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are on the road and when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. How can you talk about them when you are going to bed, when you are knackered and tired, when you are worn out and stressed? How can you talk about them in the morning when you are rattling to get ready for work? If you do not have structures in place to implement a lot of your goals, there's even no point making them in the first place, correct? Do not provoke your children to despair. You know how, yeah, you must honor your father and your mother so that your days may be long. They now forget to add, parents, do not provoke your children to despair. You know how they say when you keep chasing a goat, one day to turn and attack you, right? Stop putting yourself in that position where your children will loathe you. They will close their hearts to receiving correction from you. Stop trying to live your life through them. You have had your chance. You may have failed in A, B, or C, or D. Allow them the opportunity to learn to. Stop trying to micromanage every aspect of their lives. And when they say no, because they actually do not want you, start feeling attacked, you start feeling bad, you start raining curses. Say you just did it to me. Your child will do it to me too. It will not work. Because you cannot curse who the Lord has blessed. Because the Lord has already told you not to push your children, not to provoke them to despair. Correction is not, discipline is not an emergency. If it's actually for their own good, if it's with their interest at heart, there's a way you come at it. There's a way you present it. And when they say no, be okay too. Sometimes natural consequences are a good way for children to learn. Yeah, it may affect them, but just pray that it will not impact them too much that they will lose themselves or they will lose their lives or their relationships with God or you. You must ensure that in trying to correct them, do not spare the rod, so you don't spoil the child because you want to have excuse to flog you. Let's not even get into that. and you're not provoking them into despair. So they'll not pack their sins one day and say they want to even leave. Remember how the Bible says it's better to live in the desert than to live under the same roof with a contentious wife. I think with the contentious parents, some parents are just annoyingly and they are just unnecessarily annoying. Allow your children room to be, to breathe, to grow, to learn. Understand them enough and teach them in the language they will understand, in the way they learn, in the way they will comprehend, and give them patience to begin to apply the knowledge they've understood, okay? So that you will not push them, provoke them to despair. The final point on how to parent the kingdom way is discipline. Discipline, right? You must discipline your children with love, with so much grace. Okay, don't punish. Don't go and start looking for a way to inflict injuries on them. I don't know. The debate is still on. Some people say gentle parenting will make your children bad or not do well. Some people want to still flog. Whatever you have chosen, if beating up your children and making them cry teaches them for you, do you, right? But as for me and my household, we will teach instead of punish. All right, we will equip instead of inflict injuries, because I don't know how flogging a child teaches them to be obedient. I don't know how flogging a child will tell them not to spill water anymore. You should teach skills, replace misbehavior with the proper behavior. Flogging does not do that for you. It will only make them afraid. It will only make them afraid of attempting, because who knows what they were doing may actually be experimenting an idea in their head. They made a mistake and they broke the cup. You flog them, and next time when they have such brilliant ideas, they won't be able to do it. I remember Steve Jobs in how to take over the world. Yeah, Steve Jobs was talked about that. He said they almost succeeded in beating out curiosity out of him, because he preferred to run in the fields after butterflies. Imagine if they had beaten out the thing that he has used to change the world from him. So sometimes it's not necessary, but of course, with new learning, you can see that a lot of parenting techniques or skills or methods have gone obsolete. You can adopt new ones that fit your reality. Some people say it's because you are not raising a boy. If you're raising a boy, you see that they are more stubborn. Then learn about the brain of a child. Take courses, right? Learn about the brain of a child, how it is wired and how their minds work. And patiently put in the work and see if you will not raise gentle boys. I've seen people who are raising calm boys who are well behaved. So that excuse does not even cut it anymore. It doesn't make sense in a lot of places. But who am I to judge you, right? It's not like I want to judge you, but well, like I said, of course, we know that we'll give account of everything we're doing, including parenting tomorrow. So it's okay. It's okay, right? In this episode today, we've talked about what kingdom parenting is, or parenting the kingdom way, how it is done. We've talked about the roles of parents in their children's life. We mentioned the role of introducing them to who they are, of developing their character and their talent. We talked about guiding them through mentorship and apprenticeship. We talked about the roles of kingdom families in the society. We talked about modeling. We talked about being light of the world, the beacons. We talked about ruling, dominating the earth and filling it. We talked about training through apprenticeship. And we talked about the concept of kingdom parenting. We talked about influence, equipping, discipline, provision, and commission. And finally, we discussed how to parent the kingdom way. There we talked about learning, being imitators of God, being intentional and deliberate. We should not provoke our children to despair. And finally, talked about discipline. It is our desire that you learn, unlearn, and relearn in your journey towards excellence in parenting. It is our belief that our heartfelt appeal, that you start living today with tomorrow in mind, that you become a legacy conscious parent, so that tomorrow you would go back to God knowing that you did your absolute best in making the future, the world a better place than you met it. Thank you so much again for spending time with us, for sharing your attention with us on today's episode. We appreciate you. We celebrate you. And till we meet again in our next episode, stay excellent.